Duramax will not start. In the last video, I bought this truck sight unseen at an online auction for $4,500. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Whenever I went to pick the truck up, it seemed like it was struggling to start. I mentioned it probably had one of three things wrong with it. It probably had weak batteries, fuel issues, or possibly the starter was going bad. Well, if you watched the last video, we replaced the batteries, we fixed a ton of fuel issues, and now I think the starter has hit the hay. Now, the reason I bought this cheap 1-ton Duramax is because I wanted it to be a dedicated, reliable hauler. Every year, I buy a lot of stuff all over the country, and every time I do it, it seems like I never have a dedicated truck to go hop in that's set up and ready for whatever journey it is I'm gonna make. So that is what I'm gonna be setting this truck up for. Well, if I'm gonna rely on this truck to drive across the United States to go pick up some 15,000 pound piece of equipment, it's gotta be reliable. We did a lot of work to this truck in the last video, but we have a lot more to do to make this thing reliable. So beginning with the starter, we're gonna have to replace the starter on this thing to make it run again, and then we will move forward. We've got a lot of work to do, and it's hot. 95 degrees, probably, I don't know, 90, 100% humidity, not even joking. So let's push this thing in my cooled garage and get to work on it. There's just one problem. I think this truck is sitting a little bit high because of these little pieces of metal that have been welded on top of the flatbed. I don't think it's gonna fit in my garage, so we're gonna have to take a torch and cut these off first thing. I'm just gonna preheat this weld first, get it nice and warm so it'll cut easy. There it is. Now let's see if we can get this truck to fit in the garage. Joke about fitting this big truck in my little garage, but I decided not to. Just watch and make sure I don't hit nothing. Yeah, boy. Fit like a glove. Goodness. Somebody was afraid that was going somewhere. Before I even start wrenching on this truck today, I'm fueling up with Factor. Fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals delivered right to my door. This one is their chicken pesto cavatappi, whatever that word is. It's ready to eat in just 2 minutes, which is perfect to me because I like to eat and get right back to work. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. No grocery runs, no cooking mess, just chef-crafted meals from a weekly menu of over 35 options, including Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, and Vegan and Veggie. Plus, they've got over 60 add-ons like breakfast, snacks, and drinks, so I'm covered all day long. Here it is. We've got green beans, tomatoes, some noodles, and chicken. This is gonna be really good. I have used Factor quite a bit, and I've always known their food to have so much flavor. This tastes as good as it smells, and if you don't believe me, I've got a couple of some of the best sniffers on the planet right there. I've also worked with HelloFresh before, and now that Factor is owned by HelloFresh, I get even more variety. I love Factor, and I think you guys should give it a try, and because of that, today I'm gonna offer you guys 50% off your first box. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50Braden to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50Braden at factor75.com for 50% off and free shipping on your first box. I feel fulfilled. Let's get back to working on this truck. Because we're taking the starter off, I wanted to disconnect the batteries just in case we accidentally bump the ratchet handle on the frame while we're taking the starter off. Hot battery cables actually run directly from the battery to the starter solenoid, so we definitely don't want to cross that up. Now the starter on this truck is right back here, right there. So in order to remove that starter, first thing we gotta do is take this fender liner out of here. After that, we have to disconnect that exhaust downpipe you see there. There's a clamp that holds it on. And then we'll just start disconnecting those cables, get those 2 starter bolts out, and then throw the new one in. Oh, my Harbor Freight light just broke. Went to flip it back and it just... Not to worry, I have backups. Now it looks like we've only got 1 plastic rivet. Oh, holding this thing on. Y'all believe this? The only thing holding these fender flares on is the fender liner. There's nothing holding this fender flare on here. So basically this fender flare just sits on here like this and the fender liner pinches it and the little screws are the only thing that hold this on. There's no double-sided tape or anything. I actually thought that these were probably screwed into the fender, but no, that's kind of lame. To be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of these anyways. I'm probably not gonna leave them on. Furthermore, I think this is ready to come out now. Maybe. What? Oh. Got a little wire holder right there. Okay. It is out. All right, let's throw some penetrating oil on that clamp there. Okay. I'm actually quite impressed. This little bitty Milwaukee ratchet budged it at all. I don't have the big Milwaukee, but I do have the big snap-on. Okay, let's see if we can break it off of there now. There it is. I'm gonna try to reach that solenoid wire. Got it. So this little wire is the solenoid trigger wire. Now we've got the hot supply cable here. This goes straight to the battery. There we go. Now we gotta get to that starter bolt, and I guess there's one down here. That's not gonna be a fun place to get. Let's clean it off a little bit. All these dang kids and their electric tools, they don't know how hard I had it back in my day. Back in my day, we had mules run our tools. Okay. Can't see what I'm doing, but that's okay. Seeing is not a necessity, it is a luxury. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, that's not good. I think I just broke that bolt. What have I done here? Oh, I didn't break the bolt, did I? Oh, so I just broke it loose. Whew, that scared me, fellas. I thought I broke that bolt off in the transmission. That wouldn't have been very fun. I was already thinking of ways to weld a nut onto it. I think it's about out. Yep, there it is. There it is. Got it. Quick little super clean spray down here. Help clean up all that gunk that was just hiding behind the starter. All right, so here is our old starter. And I went and bought a Duralast gold starter. Let me open this up real quick. Whoo, baby. goodness. Who the heck hurt Duralast? Look at this billet aluminum starter. Is this going on a 2008 Silverado or a spaceship? I mean, that is beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse whatever I can. Might as well stick these wires on while I'm here. And we're gonna have to put this exhaust back together. All right, the new starter is in. Let's see if this puppy will start up now. All right, here we go. Hopefully this thing will start up now. Trip to AutoZone to return my core starter. While I'm on that trip, I'm gonna hook up my scanner and monitor live data, see if there's anything I missed. I know we had a bunch of glow plug issues. And then the next thing is gonna be giving this thing a really good deep clean outside and underneath. I'm gonna be underneath this thing changing the fluids, and I don't want a bunch of grease and dirt hitting me in the face while I'm doing that. This truck also doesn't have AC. We're gonna have to fix that at some point. All right, let's get going. Got an engine reduced power code already. Let's turn in here and read these real quick. First thing we got's a high frequency mass airflow circuit. Glow plug circuit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right front wheel speed sensor supply. So we've got something going on with the right front wheel speed sensor for sure. All right, I'm gonna delete these codes and we're just gonna start from the faults. We're gonna begin working on the glow plug, see if we can get those to clear up. Then we will move to the wheel speed sensors, a mass airflow sensor. We may pick a new mass airflow sensor up as well. Tell y'all what, there's this old contracting business just down the road from me. It looks like he just got done bush hogging his field. He has a Big Tex gooseneck trailer that I've been eyeballing that's been sitting in his woods for a little while. What up? Sell that trailer to me?
Yeah, I talked to Chad about that. Yeah, we'll sell it.
Okay.
10,000.
10,000's what you want for it?
Yeah. It's going to take the crank for it to get raise it and lower it.
Yeah.
It's going to need some kind of repairs.
Is that a 30 footer?
I don't think it's 30.
Is it 25?
I think so.
Well, I do need something that's longer and a little bit heavier. I want something for this. I was hoping he's gonna throw me a much lower number than 10 grand. I don't think it's worth 10 grand, but we'll look at it. Yeah, it don't like the crank, does it?
Don't like the crank, yeah. It's just, maybe it just need grease.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the ramps out there.
Yep. Let's see here. Yeah, it's a 25 foot.
Okay. Yeah. 22.
Yep. Yep.
22 turns.
Well, I'll think about it and I'll let you know on it.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you letting me look at it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna buy that trailer for 10,000. That's pretty high. I was really hoping it was a 30 footer, but it's actually a 25 foot, which is good. I mean, 25 footer will work, but I really want a 30 footer. Just for when I take this truck across the country and I wanna load that sucker up, make my trip worthwhile, I want a 30 footer. Taking this fender liner out so we can pressure wash the side of the engine really good. We're probably gonna leave it out until we are done with the truck in case something comes up where we need to access the sides of the engine. Makes it a lot easier when this fender liner is off. This plastic rivet wants to be a hero. There's the washer fluid cap. Look at all that dirt caked up around that brake line. Whew. This is what I'm talking about when I say this thing is caked with dirt and grease. That right there is likely a leak, an oil leak or a fluid leak of some sort that never ever gets fixed. The result of that is this dirt just clings to it and accumulates over time, dries out, gets a little hard, and now you've got about a 1/4 inch of crud on your whole frame. So I'm gonna be really excited to spray some Super Clean on the whole underside of this truck. So far, Super Clean has been the best product that I've found that is good at tearing down grime and grease such as this. Try not to get it on your paint, try not to get it on your wheels. It is kind of hard on stuff. Otherwise, I use this stuff on engines, any kind of mechanical components, and it works pretty good. I'm gonna jack this thing up so we can take the wheels off so that I can wash behind them. This wheel is just barely off the ground. That'll work. While we've got all 4 up in the air, why don't we try a little 4-wheel drive test? Whew, fires right up. Now with the wheels up in the air like this, you always want to make sure your foot is all the way down on the brake before you shift. We're in neutral. Okay, now we're gonna put her in 4. It looks like we already have a 4-wheel drive full. See that? Foot down on the brake, put her in drive, slowly let off. Good. Let's try reverse. That doesn't sound too good. So typically on a 4-wheel drive truck, you have the engine, you have the transmission that bolts onto the back of the engine, and then on a 4-wheel drive truck, on the back of the transmission is a transfer case. The transfer case will have a drive line running back to the rear diff, and to the side of the transfer case, you'll have a drive shaft running to the front diff. When you put the transfer case in 4-wheel drive, that drive shaft that runs to the front diff will start spinning. And that front diff will spin the front axles and it'll make the front wheels turn. That's how you get 4-wheel drive. It's in 4-wheel drive high and our front wheels are not spinning, and in reverse, we've got a horrible racket coming from the front. Let's see what it is. All right, so there's our transmission. That's the transfer case. That's the rear drive shaft that goes to the rear diff. Then the front drive shaft goes to the front diff. Golly. And then that front differential is supposed to be spinning that axle right there. Woo! Something just made a racket. And then we're gonna have an axle over here. What in the world? The axle's going. Supposed to be an axle right here. It's completely missing. Let's put this thing back in drive and see what it does. The differential's turning now. It wasn't turning before. What the heck? And then this axle is not doing nothing. I think we have a bad front diff. The transfer case is working just fine. It is putting power straight to that front diff, and the front diff is not turning. Put it in drive, it's turning internally, but it's not spinning the passenger side axle. There's no driver axle to speak of for whatever reason. I had a comment last video that said, hey, I used to drive this truck on a farm. It seems to me like the previous owners probably grenaded the front diff, and maybe they were having some kind of issue with this front axle over here on the driver's side, so instead of repairing the whole thing, they just pulled that axle out, ran it in two-wheel drive is my guess. How did they grenade the diff? I have no idea. Maybe they were hauling a really big load in four-wheel drive and it put the front diff in a bind. It's also quite possible they were driving down the interstate at 60 and maybe they bumped the transfer case lever and put it in four-wheel drive that way. The transfer case held up and the front diff did not. We can only speculate. There's no black boxes on these things. So what we're gonna have to do now is clean this thing really good. Pull it into the garage, and we're probably gonna have to pull the front diff. This is escalating. All right, let's clean it. We have very strong evidence suggesting that the front differential is bad. So we're gonna have to pull the front differential and replace it, but before we do that, I'm sure there's probably gonna be more things that we need to replace on this truck. So let's climb around underneath this thing and give it a little look-see. Look at how clean I got this fender well. Woo! Much, much cleaner. I'm not seeing anything right off the bat. You know, obviously we are missing the driver's side axle completely. Here's our front shock, and it does appear the rubber is a bit dry rotted right there. I'm not sure if that's gonna be original to the truck or something aftermarket that has since wore out. Nothing appears to be too far off about this control arm. It does have a grease zerk there that has no grease on it, so it probably hasn't received any in a long time. That is not the original control arm. That says CarQuest right there. So we got a CarQuest upper control arm. How does that ball joint boot look right there? It's seen better days, but I don't see any dry rotting tears or grease leaking out of it, so that's good. I am seeing a little bit of dry rot cracking on this bottom strut bushing here. This tie rod and tie rod end don't look original. They look a little bit newer. And that's mainly just because they're not dirt stained like everything else. Let's see, this tie rod end has not been greased in a long time. Looks like we've got another CarQuest label right there. So as of now, we know this upper control arm has been replaced at some point, and the lower tie rod end and the inner tie rod also have been replaced at some point. I am still questioning that shock right there. I don't see any brands on it, but I don't think it's original. Looking more at that shock, there's an old sticker there. It almost looks like a Monroe sticker. Right there, there's supposed to be a rubber bumper that gently bumps this bottom control arm when it overextends. That appears to be completely missing. How is this lower ball joint looking? Good grief, that thing is blown out. That's really bad. So it's safe to say we're gonna need some ball joints on this thing. In addition to that, I wonder how these control arm bushings are looking. Ooh, that's looking like it's been chewed up pretty good. Yeah, I'd say this is probably the original control arm. Looking over here, appears to be the same story, if not worse. That bushing is really bad looking inside of there. See how cracked and dry rotted that is? Yeah, I think we're gonna need some new control arms. And without knowing the age of this strut and seeing that top boot all dry rotted makes me want to replace this as well. This right here is a sway bar, and then this is the link to the lower control arm. And same story here, the rubber is pretty dry rotted. So that front sway bar goes from the driver's side underneath the truck to the passenger side, and it is hooked to the frame using these mounting brackets that are also supported by these, what do you know, we got some aftermarket rubber right there. So these sway bar bushings have been replaced. I am trying my best to find out whatever it was that was leaking that created all of this dirt accumulation, but so far I'm not seeing anything. So here's the front differential that we're gonna be replacing, and that comes out to the CV axle, and that CV axle drives the passenger side front wheel. I'm gonna give her a little shake. Oh my word. Wow, that is a lot of play right there. This front diff is almost acting like it was left in four-wheel drive with no oil in it. That's my guess. Of course, we don't know. Go ahead and place your bets, but I'm betting there is no oil in this thing. Okay, same thing on this side. I'm just gonna speed run it. Same as the driver's side, we have a strut that appears to be aftermarket. We have a CarQuest upper control arm, so we know that's been replaced before. The ball joint probably hasn't gotten any grease. Not sure how well you can see it, but the CV axle boots are really dry rotted. There you go, y'all can see that. Lower control arm bushings are also in very questionable condition. Wow, this is actually the best one we've seen so far. And same story on the bumper. We are also missing that rubber bumper that prevents the upper control arm from going too far. I will say the rotors seem to have some life on them, and we also have brake pads back there, so I don't think we're gonna be touching these brakes. Lower ball joint, the boot's not ripped, but if we're gonna be replacing the control arm bushings, we should just go ahead and get a whole new lower control arm with a new ball joint in it. I think it's actually cheaper and just more efficient to just buy the whole thing rather than try to fight new bushings and a ball joint. I did just notice our wheel speed sensor is blue, which tells me either the sensor has been replaced or the wheel hub has been replaced and a new sensor was included with it. Now remember guys, we were getting a right front wheel speed sensor code, so it is possible that we have a bad sensor, a bad wire, or the hub assembly is wore out. If I'm gonna rely on this thing and go long distance with it, it might not be a bad idea to just go ahead and throw new hub assemblies in here. I am also excited to introduce to you guys a few leaks we've got under this thing. This thing has not even been in my garage for 24 hours and we've already got 3 leaks. That one's an oil leak. I knew about that one. We'll look at that in a second, but these two, these are new. All right, first on the list appears to be the transfer case. And where is it leaking from? It appears to be the drain plug. And this did not start leaking until after I pressure washed it. So I wonder if a bunch of gunk was built up around that plug that was keeping the fluid from dripping on the ground. For example, here's the fill plug. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of dirt that I did not get. If this fill plug was leaking, it would be leaching off into the big clump of dirt that is grown on the side of this transfer case. It is worth mentioning that there is RTV up here that is pairing the transfer case to the back of the transmission. So at some point, this transfer case has been removed and reinstalled. Wonder why. For our next leak, it appears we have the transmission. This is another leak that occurred just after pressure washing, so it is highly likely that I accidentally blasted through that really old transmission oil pan seal there. It does appear to be leaking right around that seal, but no regrets. I had to do what I had to do. I mean, you couldn't even see this transmission before I got a hold of it with the pressure washer. This truck is still a disaster. It'll take many, many washes before I would ever consider this a clean truck. Moving on to our last leak, we've got an engine oil leak coming from, it's really hard to tell. It almost looks like it's coming from in between the engine and the transmission, which means we have a rear main seal leak. The only way to repair that would be removing the transmission and putting a new rear main seal in. The thing is, I don't see anything that's wet in this hole. It does appear that this lower oil pan is leaking around the gasket. I do wonder if that oil is running down the oil pan onto the engine and then around, and it's collecting right here. I'm gonna open up this inspection port here. We're gonna shoot a camera, look that direction, and see if it looks like our rear main seal is leaking on the inside of here. Bottom of this cover is pretty grimy. All right, here we go. All right, we're going in. I'm gonna look towards the bottom of the transmission. All right, those teeth you see there, that's the flex plate. And if we see anything down here, it will be unquestionably wet. And so far, I'm not seeing anything. That's all fairly dry right there. You can see the dull coloration. That's an indicator that this is not wet. Let's go up this way and see if I can get a peek at the actual rear main seal. Okay. Yeah, there's the rear main seal. It doesn't look like anything's been leaking out of it. You're probably gonna see a little bit of rust in here. That's from the bare metal sweating and then rusting over the years. And this is the bottom of the rear main seal, so if there was oil coming out of there, we would definitely see it. I'm gonna go ahead and say the rear main seal is not leaking. That residue may very well be coming from that oil pan leak. Anytime you have a fluid leak while driving, all the fluids are gonna run towards the back. So it makes sense that this oil leak could just be running that direction, which is another reason why everything is covered in oily dirt. As of right now, I don't suspect we have a rear main seal leak, so we're gonna fix that oil pan gasket there once we pull the front differential. And if this continues, then I will then look a little deeper into that rear main seal. I wonder if the drive line coming out of the transfer case, it does seem to have a little bit of play. Transfer case isn't leaking out of that seal, so that tells me it's not wallered out too bad if it is. Let's see if it, oh my word. Good grief. That is extremely wallered out. If we move a little bit towards the front end, we've got what appears to be a Bilstein steering stabilizer. It is old enough that the rubber is beginning to crack. We've got a dust cover that has popped off. Uh-oh. It looks like that steering gear right there is pretty wet. Now whether it's leaking from that seal or if it's leaking upstream, I don't know. Looks like that high pressure line going from the hydro boost to the gear is just a little bit wet. Yeah, it seems like that gear is leaking from the seal. The more I look at this thing, the more I find wrong with it. Like it? What do you like about it?
That right there.
Spray those hinges. Spray that bottom one. That bottom one's not. Yep. Now spray that top one. Okay. No. Oh my gosh. This hinge has been ripped off before and they just welded it back on. That's what it is. That roller in there is not moving at all, so it's just like metal and metal friction. Spraying it won't help. What is your favorite truck?
I guess it wasn't really a truck. The Land Cruiser probably.
The gold Land Cruiser? What's your favorite truck I have now?
I guess it's the military
Oh, that one creaks too? Hang on. Spray it. It's that bottom. It's the bottom one. There's a roller down there.
That thing? The spring?
Yeah, spray that roller.
This?
No, not exactly. You were so okay. You're that's good. Okay. Oh, that fixed it. A passenger side door that works.
Yay, I need a stool.
Well, it's jacked up right now. Usually doesn't sit this high. Well, we've got quite a bit of work to do, so let's start tearing this thing down. Differential's coming out, upper, lower control arms is coming out. Pretty much the whole front end is coming apart, which means we're gonna have to remove the torsion bars. So I think that's what we're gonna start with first, because that is probably gonna be the most painstaking portion of this disassembly. Reason being, after 350,000 miles, I'm sure those things have never been removed, so they're going to be petrified inside of that lower control arm and the torsion bar keys in the back. We're gonna have to heat them up, spray them, and beat the heck out of them to get them out, I'm sure. Let the fun begin. First thing we gotta do is try to get this torsion key out of here. Thing's screwed all the way in. Someone must have adjusted it. Now I need to get the tension off of that holder in there. This tool is gonna press that torsion key up so we can remove this little holder here. That bolt was in there. Let's remove this holder now. So this holder and this screw is what adjusts your torsion. Screwing this in will lift your front end, but it'll also make it stiffer. And then screwing it out will allow this torsion bar to rotate counterclockwise. It'll lower your front end and it'll also make it a little less stiff. A lot of leveling kits, people put these torsion keys in here, and they're made to when you adjust them, it lifts the front end to where it's perfectly level with the rear. Most trucks come from the factory with a lower front end, and I think that's for aerodynamics. And they're also made like that so when you load the truck down, it sits level. A lot of people, including myself, like to turn up the torsion key so that the front is level with the rear at all times. All right, let's get our tension tool out of here. Never a bad idea to give it a little lubrication. All right, Milwaukee, baby, Milwaukee. Now I'd really like to get this thing out of here, but it is not going to be easy, I can promise you that. I'm gonna start by heating up this torsion key as much as I can so it'll expand away from the torsion bar. Bigger air hammer might not be a bad idea, but I'm gonna try to punch this thing from the back, see if we can break it free from the torsion key. We're not getting any movement out of it. I did say a larger air hammer would be more ideal, so I went to the store and bought a larger air hammer. I might have to get the torch out. We're gonna warm her up real good. Definitely want to be mindful of fuel lines or fuel leaks when using a torch around the vehicle. I don't recommend doing it. I am an amateur, not a professional. This reminds me of when the Covenant glassed Africa on Halo 3. This thing's pretty hot. Let's see if it'll pop out of there now. Oh baby! Oh, we're getting somewhere. Yeah, I need to get a longer punch real quick. Reload, reload. Oh! the ends of these torsion bars get so rusted inside of that key that it is extremely difficult to punch them out. Bigger hammer, bigger torch, and she popped right out. Heck yeah, now time to do the other side. Torsion key number 2. Dang, these bushings are shot in this crossmember. We'll have to look into that. Seems like it might be the front that's holding it up. Yep, we're loose here. We're stuck at the front, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty rusty looking in there. For those that don't know, we're heating up the control arm and not the actual bar itself, because when you heat something up, it expands. We don't want the torsion bar to expand. We want whatever surrounding it to expand so that it will free up the torsion bar. Another little trick we can do is once we're done heating up this control arm, we can spray a little penetrating oil directly onto the torsion bar, and that'll help cool it a little bit, and when something cools, it shrinks. And we're talking microscopic levels. The naked eye won't be able to recognize it, but it will shrink away from the control arm. You definitely want to be careful heating up a control arm you plan on keeping, because heating up metal to a certain degree compromises its structural integrity, and this is a structural component. However, we are replacing these, so I don't really care how hot I get it as long as that torsion bar breaks free. In order to remove those torsion bars, we're gonna have to remove this cross member that they once sat in, which is a good thing because the bushings on these are absolutely shot. Look at that. Yep. I got a better idea. There she is. Stuff like this is what adds a whole lot of time to making YouTube videos. This bushing right here is something that I just would not have thought about coming into this, and now I have to order 2 of these, and it's probably gonna take 4 or 5 days for them to come in. And this is just one of many things. You never know what you're gonna get into when you're tearing into a 350,000 mile ragged out truck. It's like the metal's completely missing for this one. Oh, there it is. Yep, that bushing just fell apart. Got most of it out. Before I remove these, I think they're directional, so I'm gonna label them driver. I'm gonna have an arrow pointing like that. Passenger. My handwriting hasn't evolved past the 4th grade. Now that we removed those torsion rods from the lower control arm, we can start disassembling the suspension. Earlier in the video, I mentioned I had a little Milwaukee and a big snap-on, and I was referring to the battery-powered right angle ratchet. I've had my eyes on this for a while. This is a Milwaukee M12 right angle impact. I think it's like 220 foot-pounds of torque. I thought this would be a great opportunity to see this thing shine. Because we got a lot of bolts in tight places, I thought this would be the perfect time to try this thing out. We're gonna start taking all of this stuff apart with the brake caliper. I am gonna be putting new brake fluid in this truck, so there's no reason this being in the way. All right, first time ever using it. This brake line bracket's kind of loose. I love this thing already. It's gonna be 2 bolts holding this caliper on. This thing just fits right in there. Let's see if it'll break it. I think we met its match already. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Caliper bolts are usually torqued in pretty good. Oh my word. I got the 1/2 incher out. There ain't no sense in hurting myself over a bolt. Never let pride get in the way of using the right tool. I don't want arthritis when I turn 45. Dang. I'm just gonna get a little bit warm. Oh, I can almost get to it. Ha! I made that a little bit more difficult than it had to be. That's just me acting though. I'm just acting for the camera, yeah. Boom! Telling y'all, I'm a really, really good actor. Okay, there we go. Calipers off. All right, little Milwaukee, you're up again. Boom! Heck yeah. Lower ball joint. Man, I love this thing. Tie rod end. I'm gonna disconnect this ABS sensor. There we go. Boom. Boom. God. Next thing I want to get rid of is this shock. Oh, she don't want that. Let's see if the little 600 foot-pounder will do it. Oh yeah. There it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an aftermarket Monroe shock. Come on out. There it is. And it seems to be pretty wore out. Look how slow that is. I want to wiggle these ball joints. That's not ideal. And our bottom one, not ideal, but on a more extreme level. Got a brake line bracket. Needs removing. This sway bar link has a nut on the top of it that's been rounded off. So I think what I'm gonna do is take a Sawzall and cut it right here. Yep. Oh my gosh, is Braden using a claw hammer on a truck? Yes, he is. I don't think it's gonna matter, but I'm gonna mark these adjusters right here. The whole truck's gonna have to be realigned anyways. But this just seems like the smart thing to do. Wow, that's impressive. Upper control arm is out. There it is. Boom. Man, I'm glad we were doing all of this. Inner tie rod in, they make a special tool for this, but there's no sense in using it if you don't have to. We might use that special tool when it comes to reinstalling. It's only really necessary when everything, like all the uppers and lowers, are still installed. Now we're gonna get rid of whatever's left of that bumper that was supposed to be here. Oh. This is what a new one is gonna look like. This is a Moog. They make really good suspension parts. Just like that. But we'll install that in the next video. We're still trying to get that front differential out, so let's go to the other side and we'll speed through all of this. That's the front differential's internal axle shaft there, just fell right out. All of the suspension has been removed, which means it is time to begin removing the front differential. In order to remove this front differential, we've got 2 bolts holding the differential to this bracket here. We've got 1 mount on this cross member here, and then we have 1 more mount right here that's holding the differential onto this truck. On top of that, we are gonna have to disconnect the front drive shaft, or this thing is not going anywhere. My word. This is why I can't get anything done with you guys in here. Yeah. Oh yeah. 2, 3. All right, number 4. Come on, boy. Get out of there. Oh yeah, there it goes. Next thing I'm gonna do is remove this cross member so that we can access the bolt on the other side of this mount. I'm gonna disconnect this actuator here. Come on, there we go. I'm not gonna take these nuts completely off yet. We're just gonna kind of let it hang. Like that. We've got some mud on this nut. It's not gonna let the socket seat properly. So yeah, get that off. Gosh, that was difficult. The reason I'm taking this top one out first is because as we remove these bolts, they're gonna fight us more and more. And I'd rather fight a battle that's more accessible than this very top one. Ah, yes. There we go. I feel like it would be a much better idea to just put that right here on this end. I don't know why GM decided to stick it in that direction. Much more difficult to remove that way, but whatever. Now we need to get our jacking device under this differential. All right. Okay, this seems somewhat secure. The nut we have to remove is hidden underneath all of this dirt. Oh wow. That's thick. Oh, there it is. I always wanted to be an archaeologist. I got a killer collection of arrowheads I might show y'all sometime, but only if you ask nicely. There it is. I'm just removing these nuts that we broke loose earlier. Okay. All right, here she comes. Nice and easy. Come on, girl. Come on out. Don't be shy. Needs a little pry bar, I believe. Problem is I cannot get that lower mount to break free. I thought this would just fall right out of here, but this mount is hitting the steering link. So we're gonna have to take the steering link out of here. There it is. We're taking this whole dang truck apart. Mothers, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Oh crap. Fall out already. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, BradenBuildz, the master mechanic. Oh, something's draining out of it. What could it be? Water. Water is coming out of the front differential. Look at all the mud caked on the front of that oil pan. My goodness. Timber! So imagine this is the top mount and this is the end yoke. It's almost like you have to have it go in like this and then twist it this way. That's gonna be difficult. The front differential is finally out. Putting another differential in this truck is gonna be a little tricky. But you'll see that in the next video when we put all of this back together. We're not done yet. We still need to remove the steering gear that's hidden behind this, where's it at? Intercooler pipe here. I'm probably gonna take this intercooler pipe out of here. It's gonna make getting to the lines on top of the steering gear a lot easier. And at the very end of the video, I'm gonna take this old differential outside. We're gonna see if we can break it in half and look inside of it and see kind of what went wrong. All right, let's take this intercooler pop out. This is also going to give us some really good access to those glow plugs. And chances are we've got, you know, probably a few of them that are bad. Intercooler pop is out. On top of the steering gear, we have these two hydraulic lines that are going into it. I'm using a crow's foot to get in here. W camera angle. If you're over the age of 27 and you don't know what W means, it means like win. So I'm basically giving myself credit and saying I got a really good camera angle here. So if you didn't learn anything about taking piece of junk trucks apart in this video, at least I taught you something about culture. So don't act like I ain't ever taught you nothing. All right. After disconnecting those lines, we are leaking all kinds of fluid, and my blue shop towels are doing a phenomenal job, as you can tell. We only have 4 more things to undo on this steering gear, and then we can pull it out. There's a bolt right here that connects the steering shaft to the steering gear. We'll have to take that out and pry the steering shaft backwards. A little bit of play in that. It's probably normal, though. Get this dirt out of the way. Now we just gotta pry the steering shaft off. Oh, this is coming off really easy. There it is. These 3 bolts are the only thing holding that steering gear in. Uh-oh. Oh, crap. Ladies and gentlemen, this was just supposed to be a, oh yeah, we're gonna fix the glow plugs and change all the fluids video. And look where that got us. And we're not done. We have a lot. We have so much to do. Let's go outside and take this differential apart, see what happened with it. What in the world? That bolt was hand tight. Any more of them hand tight? I don't know, that was the only one. I have a pretty good feel for this impact, and it doesn't feel like any of these are tight though. This one might be. it is. Oh boy. Wow, look at that. Grease, mud, and water, maybe? There's no sign of any fluid in here whatsoever. Nothing but water. Look at that. So all of this you're seeing is, it's very greasy. Right here, it seems like we've got some bearing material hanging out in this cavity. These are all roller bearing rollers. So somewhere we've got a destroyed bearing. I would say it's probably this end yoke. Yep. I think that's what's cooked on it. So the end yoke bearing appears to be completely gone. This bearing is completely seized. I can't turn it at all. I'll give you a little sample of this. It seems like it's just muddy grease, kind of like maybe water got in here and mixed with the oil. And maybe it was running 4-wheel drive for a long time, got hot, everything just started cooking because you've got water and oil mix. This is the result, and this is just my guess. I don't really know what happened here. Wow. Seems like our front differential failure may have come from somewhere along the lines of water intrusion to lack of maintenance. It may have been a little bit of both. As you can see, there's not much of a gasket at all holding this case together. So if you get this thing in water, water's just gonna get right into that differential and it's gonna degrade the oil that's in there. And if you keep running it, eventually the gear oil is not gonna lubricate like it's supposed to. It might heat up a little bit. You have to have oil in these components because the oil builds a layer between metal and metal. Again, on a microscopic level, you can't see it on the naked eye, but when you have oil in an engine, clearances are very tight, but it's never metal on metal. There's oil in between all of these metal surfaces, and when you don't have that, all of the metal just starts eating each other away. And that's where you get stuff like this. There's a lot of glitter in there, and that is all metal shavings from no lubrication. Anyways, hope you liked the video. There's more to come. Everybody's been wondering where I've been. I've just been busy with life. But 1 week I was on a missions trip. There's been some weeks where I was just too hot and wore out from my job to really get anything done. And up until this point, YouTube has just been a hobby. It's not anymore. I'm now doing this for a living, but it is also my passion. I love making entertaining videos. It just so happens that I also like fixing stuff. So like I said in the last video, you're not gonna get a video every single week. It's just, I put quality before everything else. I want a really good video to get out. However, I am working on videos more often, so you have that to look forward to. Anyways, hope you like this video. Stay tuned for the next one. It's gonna be a disaster. We have so much more to do on this truck now than we did at the beginning of the video. Usually we get stuff done. We just took stuff apart in this video. On top of replacing everything with really good high quality parts, I'm also gonna do a couple modifications that are going to improve this truck tremendously. These older Chevy trucks are dominant. They're some of the best trucks ever built. All of the new trucks are garbage. That is why I'm not throwing these away. I'm buying them really cheap, fixing them up, putting them back on the road because I know that they're gonna last me a lifetime.